Welcome back to Ghost Pirate Entertainment. I'm your host, Kainan Becker, and today we talk about two of my favorite things, horror and space. So I love the idea of doing this list, but then when I started to compile it, the more I started realizing this is going to be a little bit top heavy because there's a couple really amazing movies that are space horror movies, right? But then you get down into that bottom five and they're not quite as good. But they are still extremely fun movies. And you know me, and I'm all about the fun in horror and sci-fi. So with that, let's get to the list. So coming in at number 10, of course, Jason X. You see what I did there? So Jason X is not a good movie. But if you put aside your critique brain, your critique hat, and just enjoy it for what it is, a goofy, cheesy, cheeseball slasher in space. I mean, just think of the concept of that. You take a slasher movie and you put it in space. Of course it's not a good movie, but it can be a fun movie. See, I think too many times we as horror fans can take things just a little too serious. And so when that happens, a movie like this, I feel like, is a great idea. And an honorable mention that is also the same kind of thing is Leprechaun in Space. I forget which number Leprechaun movie that is, but same concept, right? You take Leprechaun, you put him in space. Stupid, but fun movie. Next up at number 9 is a movie that I've always had a lot of fun with, and that's Pitch Black. And to me, this is Vin Diesel at his very best. And I know some people may enjoy him more in other movies, and that's fine. But for me, this is the Vin Diesel that I love. He's just a solid badass, just that dark, like, no emotion, just this badass who's gonna whoop ass on anybody and everybody. And I love that this is not your stereotypical space movie because they're not necessarily flying around in space, but to me it's on this foreign planet. There's enough space in it that it feels like a space movie, just like you could say it's not really horror, that it's more sci-fi, and I'm not going to argue with you, that's fine, but it is horror enough for me to say, because it's my list, to say that it's going to have a spot on this list at number 9. Number 8 is an incredibly awesome concept, and as much as I like this movie and as much fun as I have with this movie, I've always thought that the concept was better than the execution, and that the idea of this movie, and that would be Last Days on Mars, and it really is cool, and Liv Schreiber is one of my favorite actors of all time. It just isn't quite as good as it could have been. And I've always wished that someone would take the idea of zombies in space, basically is what it is, and do it just a little bit better. There's a lot of fun in this movie and a lot of cool stuff, a lot of cool visuals. But no matter what, like I said, the bottom 5 of this list to me are mostly about fun, and this is a fun movie. So at number 7 is Life. And this one I actually watched for this list. When I was trying to put together this list, I was trying to think of different horror movies that were space related, and I remember that this one I'd heard about a while ago, but I'd still not watched it. And surprisingly, not only did it deserve to be on this list, but it isn't, not the bottom. It's a few up at number 7. And I'm telling you, this is actually a really cool space alien type of movie. It's a great creature feature. And I couldn't believe that I had waited so long to watch this because it's really right up my alley. Like, I love creature feature kinds of movies. And the creature, the alien type of thing that's in this, has a really unique look and rules to the way that it works. And I thought it was a lot of fun. It was, like I said, bottom half of this list. But it's actually a really good movie. A lot better than I expected. With a really strong cast, including Ryan Reynolds. But no matter what, I recommend this movie. And at number 6 is the movie Cube. And I go way back with this movie. I actually saw this at Blockbuster Video on VHS when it was first released on a VHS, and I'd never heard of it, and I just looked interesting, so I took it home and watched it. Blew my mind. I just loved this movie, still love this movie to this day. But this movie, on a really low budget, did so much with what it had to work with, and it has a really strong cast considering they're all no-name actors. And it's just such a small concept. All this, this group of people stuck inside of this cube. And each time they go into another room, there's other types of traps and this and that. It's just a fun, really cool concept and really executed well for especially as small of a movie as this is. Number 5, I couldn't make a list like this without putting one of the classics. And this is probably my favorite sci-fi, not exactly horror, but I don't care. Like I said before, this is my list and I'm going to shove it on there because it does have a little bit of a horror tinge here and there. But that would be Forbidden Planet. Bobby the Robot, this movie is so much fun. I love the concept. I love the look of it. And whenever I think of any movies, horror and sci-fi, I always think about my love that goes all the way back to the old classics. Yeah, I wasn't alive then, but like I've talked about on numerous lists I've done in the past, you cannot talk about the great movies of horror and sci-fi without giving some love and respect to our 1940s, 50s, 60s sci-fi and horror movies. This movie is so groundbreaking, and everything from the way they did the special effects, the different creations they came up with, the weaponry that they created for the planet and the way it looked. So that's why it's on my list as one of my favorites. Next up at number 4 is Sputnik. Sputnik came out last year, but it definitely deserves to be on this list because everything about it is so fascinating. It looks so cool. But I think my favorite thing about this movie is the Russian space program and the way you get to kind of see behind the curtain a little bit, and just the way cosmonauts are treated and the way they do things is different, and just the whole Russian way of seeing space, but just the whole way that you see the Russian space program and the cosmonauts in this movie. It's just a lot of fun, especially being a Westerner and someone who's not really familiar with their language, with their culture. It was really exciting to see that it had a different feel about it. And on top of that, the alien creature, the way that it looked, the way it moved, and the way the rules applied to the universe that this movie resides were just so much fun. Next up at number 3, Dark City. This movie is just so unique, so different, so much fun. Once again, not exactly horror, more sci-fi, but whatever. I enjoyed it, and it does have enough horror moments to me that it still, once again, deserves to be on this list. It's dark enough, but this is just such a beautifully done movie. It's like this murder mystery type of thing where the guy is almost mementoed out, doesn't remember who he is or what's going on, and just everything about this is such a unique movie that it's kind of been polarizing. Some people are like, dude, this movie is horrible, can't stand it. But then I know a lot of people, including myself, absolutely love this movie. No matter what, though, this is one of my favorite movies of all time. So, of course, if I'm going to do a space horror sci-fi list, I'm going to put it on there. All right, and coming in at number 2 is another one of those movies that's one of my favorites of all time, and that is Event Horizon. Basically, it's Hellraiser in space, or at least that's what a lot of people say. It does have a lot of the gore kind of elements of Hellraiser. It definitely has that space element all the way. The whole thing is out in space, but I love everything about this movie. The colors, the just the grimy, gritty qualities about it, just the pain that's inflicted, the insanity. It's very cool in that Lovecraftian cosmic horror type of way, and like I said, this is definitely one of my favorite movies of all time. All right, and then number 1, I'm sure you can guess it because it's easily, in my opinion, the best space horror movie, sci-fi movie of all time, and that would be Alien. And when I say this, Aliens is pretty much in there too. I just didn't want to put Alien and Aliens both on a list of only 10. But they're both amazing. But this one is more horror, and since I'm trying to lean this more in the horror direction than I would sci-fi, I definitely wanted to talk about Alien. And this is arguably the greatest creature design of all time for special effects. This is one of the best characters, leading characters of any movie in Ripley. Maybe the best. She's just amazing. Sigourney Weaver, that is amazing in this role. Just seriously, as heroic as any character you can come up with. There's just so much to love about Alien that's been talked about by everyone forever and ever and always probably will be. So to me, if I'm going to make a list about space and horror, it's got to be Alien at the top. Alright guys, that's going to do it for me today. Please hit that subscribe button and ding that little bell because that is the best way to keep track of this channel and when I post videos like this. And I post videos like this 3 times every week. I also want to give a huge thank you to my patrons. I appreciate your support so much. And if you would like to find out more about becoming a patron, the link is down below. And like always, thank you so much for watching. Please crush that like button and remember, horror can be fun! I will see you guys next time.